All right, this video is about solving equations with variables on both sides of the equation. So that's like if we had an x on the left side and an x on the right side, what would we do in that case? Well, just a few steps that we will want to follow. The first thing we always do before we try to move variables anywhere is make sure we're simplified on both sides. Check for any combining like terms, check for any distribution if we can do any of that first. Second, we want to get all the variables on one side of the equation. So we want to get all of our x's, our variables, to either the left side or the right side of the equation. It doesn't matter which side of the equation you put it on. And then after you have all the variables on one side, we can go ahead and solve at that point. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple examples that will help us. So let's start off with an example that looks like this. Let's see. Let's do 2p minus 3 equals p minus 5. All right, so first off, do we have, can we simplify anything on the left side? We have 2p minus 3. We can't combine like terms. There's no distribution. How about the right side? There's no like terms, and there's no distribution. So we're okay now to go to step 2, which is to get our variables, in this case p, all to one side. It doesn't matter if we get them all to the left side or the right side. It'll be the same. I like to try to keep positive variables when I do it. That's just a personal preference. So here I have 2p on the left, and I have a 1p on the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and subtract this 1p over to this side. Remember, if there's no number in front of a variable, that means there's a 1. All right, so that means 2p minus 1p. That's just going to give me a 1p. Bring down my minus 3 equals this p minus 1p goes away, turns into a 0. So it's gone. And bring down my minus 5. Okay, at this point, we're just going to solve. So we're going to go ahead and add this 3 to the other side of the equation. And we get p equal to negative 2. All right, so there is our first example. Let's go ahead and take a look at our second example. All right, let's do negative 11 minus x equals 4 minus 6x. Okay, so there is nothing to simplify on the left side of the equation. There's nothing to simplify on the right side of the equation. So we can go ahead and go to step 2, which is get all the variables to one side. So here I have a choice. I can either add 1x over to this side, or I can add 6x over to this side. Like I said before, I like to use positives. So I'm going to add the 6x over to this side, because that's going to give me a positive 5x, because negative 1x plus 6x is 5x. Let's go ahead and bring down my negative 11, make that a plus. And over here, these canceled out, and I'm left with a 4. So let's get rid of this negative 11 now. We're going to go ahead and solve. This is a 2-step equation. So we're going to add 11 to both sides. And this will cancel out, and my 5x comes down, and that equals 15. Second step is going to be to divide both sides by 5. And I get x equals 15 divided by 5 is 3 for my final answer. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at 2 more examples. First, this next one, we have 4r plus 14 equals negative 2r plus 8r. Okay, let's examine this problem for a second. Step 1, can I simplify anything? 4r plus 14, can I make that any simpler? Simplifying it, no I can't. Let's see the right side. I have negative 2r plus 8r. Well, those are like terms. I can simplify those. Negative 2r plus 8r, that's 6r, because negative 2 plus 8 is 6. And then over here, we're just going to bring down what we normally had. Okay, so there I had to simplify something. Okay, step 2 now. Get everything to the same side. All right, so I can, not everything, all your variables to the same side. So we can either minus the 6r or minus our 4r. Well, if I minus 6r, that would leave everything over here on the left side. So I'm actually going to go ahead and minus my 4r, and that leaves me with a positive variable again. So I end up with a 14 on this side because the 4r's cancel out. 6r minus 4r is 2r. Awesome. Now we just solve. One-step equation. Divide both sides by 2, and I get 7 equals r, which, if you like to write it, it's the same thing as r equals 7. You can flip it, the whole thing, just like a pancake. Okay, so there is that example. Let's go ahead and do our last example. We have negative 35 minus 35x equals negative 5 times 1 plus 3x. Okay, hopefully, yep, it's like a siren going off in your head, because you can see that we can actually simplify one of these. The left side, we can't simplify. Negative 35 minus 35x, there's no like terms. However, the right side over here, we have a distribution. So we're going to simplify first by distributing. So we're going to distribute negative 5 times 1, which is negative 5. And we're going to distribute this negative 5 to this 3x. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15x. Bring down the left side, which we didn't do anything with. And now we have simplified both sides. Let's go ahead and get all of the x's on one side. We can add the 35x over here, or add the 15x over here. I'm going to add my 35x just because, like I said before, personal preference, I like to have positive variables. So that cancels out, and I'm left with a negative 35 from right here. And over here I have a negative 5. Negative 15 plus 35 gives me a positive 20x. And now I've simplified. I have all my x's on one side. I can go ahead and solve. In this case, I have a two-step equation. So I'm going to add my 5 first off. Negative 5 plus 5 goes away. And I'm left with a negative 30 equals 20x. Go ahead and divide both sides by 20. And we get x equals, see, negative 30 over 20. It's a fraction, which can be simplified down to negative 3/2. Or if you prefer, you could have said negative 1.5 as a decimal. And there you go. So that's how we deal with equations when they have variables on both sides. Make sure you simplify if you can. Make sure you get all the variables on one side of the equation, and then go ahead and solve like we've learned previously. So go ahead and try a few of those out, and if you have any questions, let me know.